Hey, we're going live. Good evening and welcome to the Gettysburg Area School Board meeting. Purpose of this meeting is to conduct the business of the Gettysburg Area School District. Board of Directors meetings and committee meetings are open to public but are not public meetings. If you wish to make public comment, you should sign up prior to the start of the meeting and request to speak during citizens' participation. At this time, if you could silence your electronic devices. Roll call, we are missing Timon and we are missing Jeremy. Both of them are excused this evening. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dave, what is our status on citizens' participation this evening? There are no citizens wishing.
One communication.
No citizens wishing to address, and Jason has one communication.
Sure, just wanted to publicly introduce Morgan Miller, new HR Human Resources Coordinator, carrying on the baton that Tam handed off. And so we're glad to have Morgan aboard. She hit the ground running, and we're going to be in good hands. So welcome, Morgan.
That brings us to our routine approvals, 5.1 through 5.6. 5.1 is the approval of the agenda. 5.2 is a financial report. 5.3 is Jacoby Transportation Drivers. 5.4 is approval of, is it Freese Transportation? Is that how it's pronounced, Jason? 5.4. 5.4? Okay. 5.5 is an expulsion waiver agreement, and 5.6 is human resource recommendations. May I have a motion for routine approvals?
So moved.
Second.
Question on routine approvals.
I have a question on the financial report.
Go ahead.
I see on here that we still have the empowered facilities management is still on here. And I know that we hired them almost 2 years ago. And I'm wondering how much longer they're going to be doing their thing and uploading and whatever, and how much longer it's going to take. Because we're already at almost $47,000.
Yeah, they're complete with loading the middle school equipment in, mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems. They're 95% with the high school. They have one more site visit they need to make, and then they'll be complete with the high school. And then at that point, we're going to take pause and evaluate which other buildings, if any others, that we would do. The other two, if we do them, would be Adams County Tech, because that's a pretty new building. And then maybe send them out to Franklin. Franklin was renovated last in 2012, I believe. So there would be some worth in cataloging that equipment and getting that scheduled through our FMX software. But at this point, I would say probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll take pause with them.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, roll call. Tim?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That moves us to our only action item, 6.1, nomination or and approval, authorized representative to ACTI. Well, at this particular time, the board would entertain any nominations for that particular position.
I'd like to, Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Robin Fitzpatrick.
I'll second that nomination.
Are there any additional nominations? Motion on the floor, Robin Fitzpatrick to represent 8 with ACTI. Question on the floor or on the motion?
Not a question, but a comment. I'm not sure of anyone else in the Gettysburg, Adams County community that's more connected than Robin Fitzpatrick and what she does in her professional career. She'll be a real asset, I think.
Any additional? Hearing none, roll call. Ryan?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Amy Beth?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That motion passes. Congratulations, Robin. Informational item 7.1 is policy 123, interscholastic athletics. Are there any questions on that informational item? The next one is 7.2, policy 251, students experiencing homelessness in foster care and/or experiencing educational instability. Are there any questions on that particular information item? 7.3, policy 255, educational stability for children in foster care.
And just a note, that's to be, Kenny, this is me, it's to be retired. Just as a note, that's to be retired because 251 will take the place of 255 and 251, just to note.
Thank you. 7.4, policy 305, employment of substitutes. 7.5, policy 301, employment of summer staff. 7.6, 307, policy student teachers and interns. 7.7, policy 308, employment contract board resolution. 7.8, policy 308, employment policy.
Also to be retired, that one.
What will that replace with what?
308.
A new 308?
Well, no, that one's going to go under conflict of interest.
Okay.
Like a general broad conflict of interest for the district. But then 308 has new substance to it.
Thank you. 7.9, policy 309, assignment and transfers. 7.10, policy 309.1, telework. Policy 7.11, 7.11, policy 311, reduction of staff. 7.12, policy 312, performance assessment of superintendent and assistant superintendent. 7.13, policy 313, evaluation of employment. 7.14, policy 317, conduct and disciplinary procedures. 7.15, policy 324, personnel file. 7.16, policy 326, complaint process. 7.17, job description, construction project manager.
I have a question about this.
Michelle?
So I read over this, and are we going to be doing construction, like, forever? Because we're putting this person on as a salaried Act 93 employee, and it would seem to me that once our project's over, and granted, I'm expecting it to take another 2.5 years, I mean, is this employee going to be terminated at the end of the construction, or like, what are we doing?
At least initially, the thought behind that, at various conversations at the facilities meeting and other conversations have been that we do have the larger projects coming up. Obviously, the 2 elementary HVAC projects. There tend not to be too many years behind there where you're looking at the next project, which could be, a roof, an HVAC system, whatever it happens to be. And then this individual could also really kind of take control of working with the department on what we call kind of the 5-year capital plan and dealing with pretty much all of the projects that we identify yearly over a 5-year plan. So it wouldn't just be the two projects that we have in the queue for the 2 elementary schools. If I missed anything, Mr. Reynolds, feel free to.
No, that pretty much sums it up.
Okay, can I ask another question? Why are 17, 18, 19, and 20 hidden from the public? Like, why aren't those job descriptions made public on board docs? I don't understand why why is that hidden? And then another question, Train is not providing us with a construction manager?
I'll let Mr. Reynolds answer the question specific to Train. In terms of job descriptions, we've always made them public on the agenda. So if they're not, we'll make sure that they are.
I know that at the facilities meeting, we talked about one of the reasons for that is having somebody that is looking out for Gettysburg's interest. Training's project manager is, their job is to make sure that's done, but they're not necessarily looking out for Gettysburg Area School District. This person would be looking out for our interest to make sure these projects are done to our standards as well. Not to mention that we do have some stuff in the 5-year plan, potential stadium stuff, bleachers and stuff. That's something that they would be taken care of on that project. There's some other, I don't want to say big projects like the HVACs, but there's some decent sized stuff that in the 5-year plan too, that to have somebody that's their focus to make sure that stuff's done and done the way it needs to be.
Yeah, outside of this current year, 23-24, where we reduced that budget to about, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, about 600,000.
655.
Yeah, it's usually $1 million. So I would say, like, in looking forward at what that person might be responsible for, you could say it's $1 million worth of projects on a yearly basis, along with whatever larger projects are coming down the pike.
So did I just hear you correctly? You just told me that we hired Train, and Train is not going to be looking out for Gettysburg School District.
We're talking about reality here. So if you're paying me as to install your HVAC system for this facility, like, I'm going to make sure it gets done, but you should have somebody from your place to make sure, just like having a homeowner's going to come and look and see that you did what you're supposed to do. That's what you have to have. You have to have somebody to check your P's and Q's and make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. And then there are standards.
I guess I get what you're saying, but do we have a salary level that we're looking at for somebody to do this?
Yeah, the salary range was 85 to 95. So the way that we looked at the restructuring, kind of the roles and responsibilities, the reason that all the job descriptions are on there is kind of redistributing the work within the department, getting rid of the assistant director position, so that position would be no more, and then basically shifting responsibilities and making it budget neutral, so that the reorganization wouldn't impact the general fund budget.
Yeah, I think some of the discussions that we had, because we had a recent resignation with our Assistant Director of Facilities, and having a PM or a project manager on a project typically saves, it saves cost, money, time, when you have somebody that actually can manage. And I think some of the discussions we had, it's not going to be, like having a district PM won't necessarily be tied specifically to construction projects. It'd be any projects that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was the thought process behind it.
Well, I just have to say, I think it's a waste of money. Not that we don't have somebody overseeing it, but we have Josh, and now we're looking at 2 other positions. I think we just have to be responsible.
It's cost neutral, though. We had an Assistant Director of Facilities, which that person can still fill some of those obligations, but we'll have somebody more project management centric, which I think makes sense in terms of when you're going to have projects.
You don't have to sell it to me. You got to sell
I'm
it
just-
you have to sell it to the taxpayers, not to me.
Any additional? .18 job description supervisor of maintenance. 7.19 job description supervisor of custodians. 7.20 job description director of facilities. Hearing no questions, board committee reports. Anyone?
Building and Finance will meet this Thursday at 4 o'clock here.
Yeah, Policy Committee will meet on October 10th at 4 PM here in the boardroom. And we're going to have a busy school year with policies. We're trying to consolidate a lot of the policies that we have through the 5, 6, 7, 8, 900s into the 3s and 500s. So we'll probably be seeing about the same number of policies come through on a monthly basis. So like a lot of the ones we did tonight were after the end of the school year. We gave them to stock and leader around June to start going through, so we'll have a healthy batch probably every time.
Yeah, all those will be action, and we'll have a similar amount for info. So it'll be
Yeah.
a pretty large batch.
Yeah, and not a question, but a comment, just that I sat in on the policy committee meeting last week that Vice President Mike Dickerson facilitated, and Lee and Jason, I just want to thank you all for the robust discussion that we had, and I think we got a lot accomplished. And even though tonight at this session, there's not a lot of discussion or question on these things, we had some really good discussion and questions and conversation last week when we went over those. So I think they were vetted pretty well.
But this is actually, in reality, us taking a look at policies that's been out there for 20, 30 years maybe.
Yeah.
So it's a high time that we get back in and adjust to how life has changed a tad. Jason, any additional board committee reports? Program reports, Jason? Well, that was simple. That brings us to our next meeting will be held here October 2nd, 2022 at 7 p.m.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Quick question, is that okay? I was looking over and my apologies for not bringing this up sooner, informational item 3.4 regarding food services. And Mr. Lusk, Principal Lusk, not to put you on the spot, but I noticed that we're like 20% or less for our breakfast program participation rates. And since the governor made that free across the entire state of Pennsylvania, I thought that might improve. If I get a free meal, I'm usually taking advantage of it. My grandkids tell me that, Papa, I'm rushed a little bit in the morning and so on. They're at the elementary level. Any thoughts or theories on why we don't have why 80% of our kids aren't taking advantage of a free breakfast? Is the food not so good, or is it scheduling, or are there other issues out there? And I don't expect you to be able to answer for the elementary or middle school.
Question, did you say that 20% mark is district-wide?
Yes.
Because I can't speak for the other buildings. I do know that in our cafeteria in the morning, it's busy. I mean, you compare that to lunch where you have 3 sessions of lunch with 3 full cafeterias worth of students. I know that there's a lot of students who do take advantage of breakfast. I didn't know the 20% threshold. I'd like to know specifically for our building. But honestly, the food quality has been great. I know the food service folks have instituted a lot of changes in our building that have been really well received, and the staff has done an incredible job. Those cooking, serving, checking students out. So I give their whole team a whole lot of credit for what I've seen thus far this year. I'd have to dig in a little bit on the breakfast specific question, but honestly, that team's done an incredible job. And I see a lot of kids eating breakfast at the high school, but they're a little slower to get moving in the morning.
Yeah, I just thought maybe it's something we could, the food services team or the principals could promote a little bit more and make sure there aren't barriers to, whether it be scheduling and whatever. But it just seems, I would love for our kids, Gettysburg kids, to take advantage of that. I think you learn a lot better when you're not hungry. Thank you.
With that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We stand adjourned.